Okay, Marine Novice here again. I'm going to try and attempt to explain the water circulation system here. As a novice, I had no idea how this worked, but once you know, it's actually fairly straightforward. So I'm going to try and explain what's going on. Obviously the tank is filled, and as water comes in, which I'll explain later, it overflows through that comb into the weir and down. I'll just open the top so you can see. Hopefully you can see the water flowing through the comb and into the weir. The weir fills up and then drains to the sump through that pipe there. And we'll go into the sump. Just stick a light in there so you can see what we have here. That pipe before exits through the bottom of the tank, through the white pipe, the blue pipe, via gravity, and into the sump. I've actually put a 10 micron sock in there, I don't know if you can see, and had to extend the pipe to the bottom because the water was crashing into the sump water and making a lot of noise, which my wife did not enjoy at all. So that's the first compartment there, where the water flows in, overflows, and then goes into this compartment here, which I'll eventually have a skimmer in, or get more live rock and just fill it with live rock. It's going to cost about the same amount of money, maybe it's £100 more. I've currently got, by the way, about just over 20 kilograms of live rock, which I got yesterday. There's a few critters in there. I've seen a few starfish, etc. That's about it. I'll come on to that later in another video. So back into the sump. Now the reason you have a sump apparently is twofold. One, to put all your equipment in without putting it in your display tank, and two, to increase the volume of water, because the more water you have, volume of water, the easier it is to maintain the tank water. Smaller fluctuations in the water quality are easier to manage. So that's the reason for a sump. This holds roughly 75 to 80 litres of water. So all told, I've probably got at least 350 litres in here. Is good. Anyway, back to this. So in here is where the skimmer is going to go, or live rock for more filtration. It goes underneath here, up through these sponges for a bit of mechanical filtering, into this compartment here where I have my heaters, and it flows over the top of here and into this compartment where I have the return pump. The return pump goes up through here, back up that green pipe, back through the middle of the weir and out via that nozzle, and that completes the circuit, the water flow. The pump I'm using came with the Aquareef 300. I think it's a Moray 3000 Aqua 1. To be honest, it's pumping as much as I want, and it's pretty quiet, so I don't think there's any need to replace that. The most water, the noise you get is from the water circulating. There's not much you can do about that. Now this mark here, which you might not be able to see there, that is the minimum level of water that this system will operate on without producing bubbles. So I don't want to fill it any less than that. Of course, if you switch the pump off, the water drains into the sump. via the nozzle, you get reverse drainage back through the nozzle, back through this green pipe and back into the pump, and hence the sump gets filled up. And that's what this tape is here. I've done it already and marked that's where the maximum level I can fill to is. So as long as I have one water level in between these two lines, I should be happy. I was going to put a return valve, non-return valve or check valve in here, but I'd rather rely on the fact that it will never ever overflow rather than see a check valve fail. Now this last compartment here, this one here, is filled with just plain RO water, no salt added at all. And I have, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, a float valve set to trigger when the level of water falls below that line, and that white pipe and pump in there will automatically fill the sump back up. Obviously as water evaporates, the salt doesn't, so the salt content stays the same, so we don't want to put salt water back in there because it just increase the general salt salinity level. So that's why I use plain water. The electrics over here, I've just got a simple 6-gang switched extension. I've got a timer on there which I got from Argos. I've got 3 for 15 quid, electronic 7-day timers. So currently I have the lights coming on at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and switching off automatically at 10 o'clock at night, so I can actually see the fish when I put them in. 8 hours a day should be sufficient to keep the algae down and the photosynthesis going. I think the key is to keep the lights coming on and off at exactly the same time every day, so when the fish do go in, you'll get accustomed to the routine. I'm eventually going to have another timer in here on an opposite cycle to that to light the sump area up. Apparently that will keep the pH levels reasonably stable, because the fish don't like anything that changes too much. So although it looks complicated to the uninformed, it's actually very simple, and I'm happy with it. When the door's shut, the sound does disappear somewhat. I may even put some soundproofing on the back, because the back of the cabinet's open, but that wouldn't take a great deal of effort to put in. So all in told, I'm very happy. I may get another 20 kilograms of live rock, because don't think that's anywhere near as much as I've seen. I've heard up to about a quarter of your tank volume should be live rock if you're not going to have a skimmer, and I quite like the idea of pure biological filtration. Very happy with this tank, big enough for me. Oh, one other thing, I've also fitted a power head in here, and if you can see that, that was quite expensive. That was about £35 online. I've got everything online. That's the only thing that I've bought new. Everything else has been second hand. But when I put the live rock in, it was fairly obvious that there was enough circulation just from that nozzle. So that's working now. I will probably wire it into the same socket because I don't have enough plugs and sockets. I'll probably wire it in the same plug as the pump, so when that's on, so is that. Okay, I don't think I'll be doing much more for at least a couple of months until after Christmas. I'll just let the tank settle and then I'll start introducing some fish, and I have no idea what I'm going to put in there. See you next time.